Co-Chair Bolden, do you want to get us started?
Okay, all right. I'm trying to get the screen up. Anyway, forget it. All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Monday, the 24th, for our full body meeting of the African American Task Force. First of all, I'd like to, before we take roll, I'd just like to make a statement regarding our mission statement, because I think it needs to be reiterated. And that is, again, the task force is, the purpose of this task force was to look at old legislation and create new legislation regarding the African American and brown people, Black and brown people for the state of Delaware. Out of this committee should be bills that have been discussed and created through the committees, and not bills that have already been implemented or on the agenda for the Senate or in the House. The process for bills that have been completed and have been circulated in the Senate and the House is that they're circulated to each and every state legislator in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. Those persons have the opportunity to sign on to those bills for sponsorship. This committee is not a committee set up to sign on to bills that have already been instituted and are waiting to either go into committee, come out of committee for the body of the Senate or the House. That was not the purpose for establishing this Justice for All agenda dealing with African American legislation. So I just wanted to make that clear regarding and going forward with any of our subcommittees regarding previous legislation that is standing out there. We are not a committee that are endorsing those pieces of legislation. We're a committee that are endorsing and creating bills going forward that benefit Black and brown people throughout the state, and also those laws that might have already been on the books that need to be reassessed. So having said that, thank you, and I'm ready to take roll.
Okay, I will call the roll now. Mr. Cawley.
Present.
Representative Bolden.
Present.
Secretary Carol Hubbard. Ray Jones Avery. Simone Philpotts. Bishop George Gibson.
Present.
Richard Smith. Spencer Price.
Present.
Eugene Young. Wendy Henry.
Present.
The Attorney General sent a proxy, Christine Iannelli.
Present.
Deputy Secretary Kimberly Chandler.
Present.
Secretary Sean Garvin.
Here.
Keith Hunt.
Present.
Cassandra Coates Johnson.
Present.
Larry Austin. Jane Hovington. Jane?
Present.
Thank you. Dr. Carmen Jordan Cox.
Present.
Joe Bryant.
Present.
Representative Moore. Representative Lambert.
Present.
Representative Wilson Anton.
Present.
Representative Minor Brown.
Present.
Representative Cook.
Present.
Representative Johnson. Representative Dorsey Walker.
Present.
Representative Chikwocha.
Present.
Representative Hensley. Senator Pinckney. Senator Lockman,
Present.
Present.
Senator Brown. And since we started roll, I believe Secretary Hubbard has joined. My apologies. Secretary Hubbard.
Present.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chair and Madam Chair, we have 21 members present. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Kristen. We can now go to the agenda. Okay, we need to accept the minutes from the November 16 meeting. I hope everyone received copies of the minutes. If there's someone that has not, please raise your hand and we'll make sure you get copies. Are there any questions on the amendments? I'm sorry, on the meeting. If none, then
I'm sorry, Representative, I see Carmen Jordan Cox has raised her hand.
I can't even see. I don't have everybody on my screen. I'm sorry, will you go ahead then
Okay.
with your question?
Yes, I had a question on the Infrastructure and Environment Subcommittee, recommendation number 2. I thought that we clarified the language, that Mr. Cawley actually finalized the language. And as I read the minutes, the last notation was that Senator Pinckney suggested that we approve the recommendation with intent and then fix the language. But my recollection is we actually fixed the language and then approved the new language.
Madam Chair, that's also my recollection that we made the correction
correct.
live.
Likewise.
Yes, and it was not done. I'm sorry, I can't see it.
It's not reflected in the minutes.
It's not reflected in the minutes.
Right.
Oh, God.
Well, then we can certainly make that change. It was.
Okay. All right, well, can we have a motion? Do we need a motion to make the change, the correction in the minutes to reflect the added corrections from the previous meeting of November 16th?
Cleon Cawley here, so moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we make a correction on the previous minutes from November 16th meeting, that corrections have been made but do not reflect in the current minutes. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Do we need to call a roll on this?
We should.
Okay. Well, let's-
And I'm sorry, who made the second?
Carmen.
Okay, yeah. If everybody, when you're making the motion or the second, just state your name first because it's hard to catch everybody. I appreciate it. All right, so I will call roll. Mr. Cawley,
Yes, 4.
Representative Bolden,
Yes.
Secretary Hubbard,
Yes.
Bishop Gibson,
I'm going to ask to abstain. I just joined the committee, so this is my first meeting, so I don't have the opportunity to view anything because I haven't received anything.
not a problem.
Okay.
Spencer Price,
Yes.
Wendy Henry,
Yes.
Christine Iannelli for AG Jennings,
Yes.
Deputy Secretary Chandler,
Yes.
Secretary Garvin,
Yes.
Keith Hunt,
Yes.
Cassandra Coates Johnson,
Yes.
Jane Hovington,
I have to abstain as well because I don't have the minutes and I wasn't at the meeting.
okay, not a problem. Dr. Carmen Jordan Cox,
Yes.
Joe Bryant,
Abstaining as well. Wasn't present at the meeting.
okay. Representative Lambert,
Yes.
Representative Wilson Anton,
Yes.
Representative Minor Brown,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Abstain, wasn't at the meeting.
Representative Johnson,
Yes.
Representative Dorsey Walker,
Yes.
Representative Chakwocha,
Yes.
Representative, or sorry, I don't believe he's here. Senator Pinckney,
Yes.
Senator Lockman.
Yes.
Okay, so we have,
Representative Johnson has joined the meeting.
yes, thank you. I did catch her in the roll call. So Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, we have 19 voting yes and 4 abstaining. The minutes are passed as amended.
Okay, did I see another hand up? Senator Lockman, is your hand up?
It is not.
This little hand is just going to everybody. It's on yours. Okay, this is mine. All right, thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda. Okay, we'll have reports from the Economic Opportunity Committee, the proposed recommendations, and we are allowing 10 minutes. So Sub-Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to all of my colleagues and to the viewing audience. Before we get started, Madam Chair and Mr. Co-Chair, I would like to add Andrea Brown-Clark to the Economic Opportunity Subcommittee, and she will be replacing Mr. Clay Hammond. He's having some challenges and we wanted to, but he still will be participating, but he's unable to participate to the degree in which he would like.
Representative Dorsey, does that change your number in any way?
No, ma'am.
Just a replacement.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the recommendation? Okay, so we will take a vote by the entire body. All in favor of adding Andrea Clark to the Economic Opportunity Subcommittee in place of, who was that, Mr.
Clay Hammond?
Clay Hammond.
Yes, ma'am.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
How about raising your hands? Let's see, okay. All right. Okay. So it's been accepted that you add Andrea Clark in the place of Mr. Hammond. Thank you,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Dorsey Walker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Economic Opportunity Subcommittee, we have been meeting all along, and what we'd like to share with you today is the Delaware General Assembly should pass a resolution encouraging the African American Task Force Economic Opportunity Subcommittee to partner with the Office of the State Treasurer and other relevant stakeholders to identify and execute the necessary steps to facilitate the establishment of a Black-owned bank in Delaware. These efforts should include encouraging local governments to take similar actions that would facilitate the establishment of the Black-owned bank within the state. The overarching goal of this initiative is to provide banking options to communities currently underserved by the banking industry by incentivizing a Black-owned bank to open a branch in Delaware. And as a result of this overarching body, the African American Task Force, we did reconvene and the language was reworked based on feedback provided at the previous African American Task Force meeting on November the 16th of 2021. We took all of the recommendations brought forth by our fellow colleagues. And Ms. Delcalo, if you would like to share the reworked language, I'd greatly appreciate it, ma'am, or Ms. Diaz.
Thank you, Representative. So the language that's on the screen right now is the reworked language. Originally, the subcommittee had put forward 3 separate recommendations, all aimed at bringing a Black-owned bank to Delaware. And instead, the Office of the State Treasurer offered to come up with some draft language to sort of streamline it into one recommendation. And this language right here is very closely modeled after what the treasurer shared with us.
Thank you, Ms. Del Carlo.
And also I wanted to note that Jordan Siemens is on the call, and you know, if you need to ask any questions, I'm sure he'd be happy to provide context.
Are there any questions? This was discussed previously in detail at not this past meeting, but even one before that, and then again at the November 16th meeting. So those of you that were not present or were not a part of this committee, if you have any questions, anything that you need to be verified, qualified regarding the suggestion of doing a resolution to establish a Black-owned bank here in the state of Delaware.
Representative Bolden, I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank Representative Walker and the Economic Opportunity Subcommittee for taking the information from our last conversation on this and reworking the language. It's much clearer to the point, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coley, anyone else? Comments, suggestions, clarifications? Seeing none. Mr. Seaman, did you want to make a statement or anything that you would like to add to this before we go forward?
Madam Chair, this is Jordan Siemens, Director of Policy and Communications, Office of State Treasurer. We have nothing else to add other than we appreciate Representative Dorsey Walker's commitment to working with us and trying to find a pathway forward to bring a Black-owned bank to Delaware. We're excited for this opportunity. So we are in support of this resolution.
Thank you very much. And you'll be the first person to make the deposit.
You better believe it.
Okay. I'd like to thank also Representative Dorsey Walker and all those persons on the Economic Subcommittee that came up with this recommendation going forward. I think this adheres to the task force mission, which we have created this Justice for All agenda in the very beginning. So Representative Dorsey, please, and those of you that may be on this call that are on your committee, please give us our thanks and all the work and the efforts that you put into this, as well as Caitlin for the work that you did in bringing this to us and the information corrected. If there's no other comments, did you have anything else to add, Representative Dorsey Walker?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. I was so accustomed to the corrections that when I looked at it, I thought this was the previous one until I looked at the third sentence. So thank you, Ms. Del Carlo, for putting up the correct recommendation from the committee. Your efforts are greatly appreciated. To all the members of the committee, you're greatly appreciated. Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Co-Chair.
Does that conclude your report?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Anything else on the agenda from you?
No, ma'am, that's it. Thank you. I yield my time to the next committee.
Representative, are we going to have the task force members vote to adopt this recommendation?
Yes. As soon as I just want to make sure there was nothing else to be added to this subcommittee hearing, meeting here on her subcommittee. So that's it, Representative. Okay. All right. So now we're ready to take a vote on the recommendation from the Economic Subcommittee. Please call the roll.
I believe we need a motion and second first.
I'll motion. Cleon call a motion to accept the recommendation as stated.
Second by Representative Chakwocha.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved in second.
Yes, I will now call the roll.
I'm sorry, Ms. Del Carlo, I'm so sorry. I see Representative Chakwocha has his hand raised. Before we call the roll, I just wanted to address any issue or concern you have.
I was just making a motion. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, sir.
Okay, great. So I will now call the roll. Mr. Colley,
Yes.
Representative Bolden,
Yes.
Secretary Hubbard,
Yes.
Bishop George Gibson,
Yes.
Spencer Price,
Yes.
Wendy Henry,
Yes.
Christine Iannelli for AG Jennings.
Due to the DOJ's role as legal counsel to our fellow state agencies, the AG abstains.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Secretary Kimberly Chandler,
Yes.
okay, Secretary Garvin,
Yes.
Keith Hunt,
Yes.
Cassandra Codes Johnson,
Yes.
Jane Hovington,
I again abstain for the same
um,
reason.
Dr. Carmen Jordan Cox,
Yes.
Joe Bryan,
Yes.
Representative Lambert,
Yes.
Representative Wilson Anton, did we lose Representative Wilson Anton? Okay, I think we did. Representative Minor Brown,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yes.
Representative Johnson,
Yes.
Representative Dorsey Walker,
Yes.
Representative Chakwocha,
Yes.
Senator Pinckney, Senator Pinckney, are you able to unmute?
Can you hear?
You're breaking up a little bit. Okay, we'll circle back. Senator Lockman,
Yes.
Senator Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and Senator Pinckney.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Senator Pinckney is voting yes. Madam Chair and Mr. Chair, we have 21 members voting yes and 2 abstaining. The recommendation is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, did you get the count? I'm sorry.
Yes, it was 21 voting yes and 2 abstaining. And so the motion passes.
All right.
And Emmy, if you want to go to the next subcommittee slide.
Right.
Thanks.
The next committee is Health and Social Services, Instructor and Environment Committee. We have different names here. Okay, who's here to present Infrastructure Environment Subcommittee?
I am here. Thank you, Representative Bolden. Sorry, I saw health next on the initial thing and I was not paying my full attention. We would like to present 2 recommendations today that have long been discussed in our subcommittee, and what you see before you is the first of those. We passed this last November in our subcommittee, and it's concerned with the environmental aspect of our work. I'll read the recommendation and then be happy to field any questions or concerns. Essentially, what this asks is that the General Assembly establish what would be called the State Environmental Justice Board. This would be a public-facing board that would have statutory authority, to provide oversight for decisions affecting overburdened communities. Additionally, this board would provide independent advice and recommendations to the Secretary of the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control and the Governor's Office on how to increase state government's efforts to address current and historical environmental injustice as modeled by the White House Justice Advisory Council. This was unanimously approved by all present members of our subcommittee, as I mentioned in November. Yes, Secretary Garvin. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm not good with raising my hand and not raising my hand. So just one, I don't know if it's a question or a statement. I do want to recognize Representative Lambert and Senator Pinckney and the incredible work they've been doing with Justice 40. And I think this recommendation, a lot of the bones of what's being talked about here kind of already existed. And I think Justice 40's kind of migrated away or expanded to really focus on not just 40% of federal climate money going into underserved communities, but really kind of a lot of what is written out here. And so as this further conversation goes on what this might look like, I think that's a good framework, and be willing to work with you, Senator Lockman and Senator Pinckney and Representative Lambert and Cook and all the rest of the members of General Assembly who are interested in this issue to kind of figure out how we match these things up together moving forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, Secretary. And I would invite, either my co-chair, Senator Pinckney, or Representative Lambert, who also sits in the subcommittee, if they want to offer any further comment. But we certainly do see the parallels and seek to make sure there's alignment and reconciliation between our work and existing work.
All right. Thanks.
I see Representative Lambert's mouth moving, but I wasn't sure if that was for us.
Yes, thank you for the kind words, Secretary Garvin. That is one of the goals of the Justice 40 Oversight Committee. We're working in partnership, and we wanted to also be a complement of the wonderful work of the Subcommittee for Infrastructure and Environment. So that is our goal, to make sure that we're in alignment and we're able to create a pathway forward even after the final convening of the Justice 40 Oversight Committee at the end of this year. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments on recommendation 1 of 2? Continue, Senator.
Representative Bolden, would you like us to request a vote on this recommendation at this time or after the conclusion of both?
No, I think we need to vote on them as you present them. However,
Okay.
to make sure everyone's clear and there's no other questions going forward. If there are none, then I'll take a motion.
I see Senator Brown.
I'm sorry.
I see Senator Brown's hand.
Okay, Senator Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I failed to do this during the previous recommendation vote, so I just want to be marked present from absent.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Senator. We can see your face now.
Well, then, Representative Bolden, if there aren't any other questions, I guess I would request on behalf of our subcommittee if we could take a vote to approve.
And there's been a motion by Senator Lockman. Do we have a second?
Second by Representative Chukwocha.
And second by Representative Chukwocha. It's been moved in second that recommendation number 1 go forward and vote on its acceptance by the entire body.
Okay, I will now do a roll call.
Jose?
Um,
Was there another question?
okay, Mr. Colley,
Yes.
Representative Bolden,
Yes.
Secretary Hubbard,
Yes.
Bishop George Gibson,
Yes.
Spencer Price,
Yes.
Wendy Henry,
Yes.
Christine Iannelli for AG Jennings.
For the same reason as the legal counsel, AG abstains.
Thank you. Deputy Secretary Kimberly, I'm sorry, I can't talk tonight. Deputy Secretary Kimberly Chandler,
Yes.
Secretary Sean Garvin,
Yes.
Keith Hunt,
Yes.
Cassandra Coates Johnson,
Yes.
Jane Hovington,
Again, I abstain. Thank you.
Dr. Carmen Jordan Cox,
Yes.
Joe Bryant,
Yes.
Representative Lambert,
Yes.
Representative Wilson Anton. Okay, it looks like she did have to leave the meeting. Representative Minor Brown,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yes.
Representative Johnson,
Yes.
Representative Dorsey Walker,
Yes.
Representative Chakotcha,
Yes.
Senator Pinckney,
Yes.
Senator Lockman,
Yes.
Senator Brown.
Yes.
Okay. Madam Chair and Mr. Chair, we have 21 members voting yes and 2 abstaining. The recommendation passes.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Senator, for such a great job on this recommendation 1. And we look forward to this second one being the same. And thank your committee. This is very good, especially with the infrastructure funds that are coming in that did pass from at the federal level. We look forward to the state of Delaware having
Thank
that up and going to communities that are definitely in need.
Thank you, Representative Bolden. Yes, we have
Again.
wonderful members who've worked very hard, and we're very proud of the work that they've helped us with. And this recommendation really does come hand in hand with the prior recommendation and would work in tandem. And we do have representation from Denrick on our subcommittee helping us make sure that we do reflect efforts that are already underway. So what this one speaks to is that Denrick should create a department-wide position of an environmental justice administrator that reports to the secretary in order to act as a liaison accountable to environmental justice committees and ensuring divisions are properly incorporating principles of environmental justice. This role, from our intent, should operate with the expectation, I think, of expanding in the future to include EJ coordinators for each county who would report to that administrator. So I changed the language around a little bit as I was reading, but you can see the exact language there of the recommendation. And I see Secretary Garvin has raised his hand.
Yes, thank you, Senator Lockman. I just want to let the committee and everybody who is watching and participating is that we are actively creating that position now. Hopefully you'll hear more about it very shortly. The issue of expanding EJ coordinators into each county starts to get us into budget and other conversations with the governor and others, and I haven't really thought about further than just getting this new position in place. So I may abstain, but I am creating the one position now and fully supportive of making sure that we have the resources to do outreach, both to get information out and to communities as well as get information into the department from communities.
Thank you, Secretary.
Question. Have you acquired a fiscal note, an estimate of a fiscal note on either one of these positions?
So Representative Bolden,
Yeah.
pardon. So this is really focused on that singular administrator position, which, and the secretary could correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the expectation is that we will see a request for that as part of the budget for the agency forthcoming. Is that correct, Secretary?
Of what I can say, it was in our OMB request, and the governor will be announcing his recommended budget later this week. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right,
Yes.
fingers crossed.
Are there any questions or comments on this recommendation?
Then I would make a motion that we vote to approve this second recommendation of the Infrastructure and Environment Subcommittee.
Second, is there a second?
Second, Representative Chakotcha.
All right, it's been moved. Motion and second that recommendation from the Infrastructure and Environmental Subcommittee be accepted as stated, and second by Representative Chakotcha. We may have a roll call.
Yes, I will now call the roll. Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
Representative Bolden,
Yes.
Secretary Hubbard,
Yes.
Bishop George Gibson,
Yes.
Spencer Price,
Abstain.
Wendy Henry,
Yes.
Christine Ionelli for AG Jennings,
Abstain.
Deputy Secretary Kimberly Chandler,
Yes.
Secretary Garvin,
Abstaining for the reasons I mentioned in the discussion. Thank you.
Keith Hunt,
Yes.
Cassandra Coates Johnson,
Yes.
Jane Hovington,
Abstain.
Dr. Carmen Jordan Cox,
Yes.
Joe Bryant,
Yes.
Representative Lambert,
Yes.
Representative Minor Brown,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yes.
Representative Johnson,
Yes.
Representative Dorsey Walker,
Yes.
Representative Chukwocha,
Yes.
Senator Pinckney,
Yes.
Senator Lockman,
Yes.
Senator Brown,
Yes.
Okay, Madam Chair and Mr. Chair, we have 19 members voting yes and 4 abstaining. The recommendation is approved.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is Health and Welfare Subcommittee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Recommendations today actually come out of our Black Maternal Health Research Group under the Health and Welfare Subcommittee. We've had quite a few presentations. One presentation by Khalil Husseini on Black maternal health and maternal and infant mortality in Delaware. Also a presentation from the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Delaware chapter in collaboration with the University of Delaware on the state of our Black girls in Delaware. Both of these presentations were very informative, but extremely disheartening at the same time to see what our Black families are dealing with during childbirth and postpartum, and what our Black children are going through, what they're up against from the moment of conception. Hence the national conversation regarding the Black maternal mortality epidemic. So our first recommendation is using data on how health outcomes differ across demographics. Administering agencies should dedicate at least 30% of existing funds for maternal health and infant mortality programming to support populations that are disproportionately impacted by poor maternal health and infant mortality. This dedicated funding should continue each year until the disparities in health outcomes are eliminated. And I just want to point out really quickly that Black infants continue to experience significantly higher mortality rates than white infants. And although the infant mortality rate in Delaware has slightly decreased, the white infant mortality rate has decreased while the Black infant mortality rate has increased. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Representative. And this is something that's brought up at JFC every single year regarding additional funding that needs to be put in and addressed to this particular going forward, because again, although as you indicated, it's decreased, very small decrease in it, but it continues to be a major factor here in our state. Just a question, the members, you mentioned several organizations that you have gone through with these. Are any of these organizations members of your subcommittee?
There
Or
are
members from there, because the recommendations are coming from your subcommittee, right? So are any members of the subcommittee that's on your subcommittee?
Are you mentioning the organizations that receive funding for maternal health initiatives?
No. You just mentioned that the data and a lot of it was supported by 100 Black women, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just wondering, are any of them members of your subcommittee, any of
Okay.
those organizations?
So Khalil Husseini was actually invited to present. We do have members from the National Coalition of 100 Black Women on our subcommittee.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that some of the members are on the committees, that they're not just coming from an organization, but they're coming from members that are on your subcommittee. That's all I want to clarify.
Yes, and the data that was actually from Delaware Department of Health's site and also from the CDC on Delaware's maternal mortality rates and infant mortality rates.
Okay. Any questions on recommendation 1 of 2 for Representative Minor Brown? Okay, I'll take a motion then. If there's no other questions, then I'll take a motion going forward with this.
Motion
to approve.
Second, Representative Dorsey Walker.
All right.
Okay, I'm sorry. I heard.
Who made the motion?
I heard several voices at once. I heard Dr. Carmen Jordan Cox and Senator Pinckney make a motion.
I will always yield to Dr. Jordan Cox.
Okay. All right, motion made by Dr. Jordan Cox and second by Representative Dorsey Walker.
Okay, thank you. And now I will call the roll. Mr. Colley,
Yes.
Representative Bolden,
Yes.
Secretary Hubbard.
Yeah.
Bishop George Gibson,
Yes.
Spencer Price. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I'm sorry, I abstain.
Abstain. Okay, thank you. Wendy Henry,
Yes.
Christine Iannelli for AG Jennings,
Abstain.
Deputy Secretary Kimberly Chandler,
Abstain.
Secretary Garvin,
Abstain.
Keith Hunt,
Yes.
Cassandra Codes Johnson,
I have to abstain on behalf of DHSS.
Jane Hovington,
Abstain.
Dr. Carmen Jordan Cox,
Yes.
Joe Bryant.
Yeah, I just want to say hats off to Representative Minor Brown and the committee for their work on this. However, I'm abstaining as well due to the department's role in the budgetary spend.
Okay. Representative Lambert,
Yes.
Representative Minor Brown,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yes.
Representative Johnson,
Yes.
Representative Dorsey Walker,
Yes.
Representative Chakwocha,
Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Chakwocha had to pick up his son. He said he will be back on as soon as he has.
Okay, so should we circle back to him? Senator Pinckney,
Yes.
Senator Lockman,
Yes.
Senator Brown.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, and guess if Representative Chakwocha is able to give his answer, I would invite him to do so now.
And he had to pick up his son at 5 o'clock, so I'm sure we'll have to go to the next. He won't be able to vote on this particular one.
Okay, all right, in that case, we have 15 members voting yes and 7 abstaining. And I believe with that math, the recommendation is approved.
All right, thank you very much. Representative Minor Brown, your second recommendation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the committee members. Our second recommendation is to increase and or expand the state funded budget for infant mortality work in the state to explicitly include funding for specific Black maternal health initiatives. And the reason for this recommendation is because there's currently no dedicated funding to address Black maternal mortality and to improve Black maternal health in Delaware. And this recommendation supports recommendation number 1.
Okay, thank you. And any questions, statements, comments? I wanted to again compliment you and your committee on this. This again is a huge problem here in the state of Delaware. I've served on JFC for 4 years now, and this has come up each and every year. And there has never, in my opinion, been enough funding going forward or enough people there working particularly on this to bring it down. So I think this is a major, major priority that needs to be addressed. And hopefully my colleagues will also look at this when we start meeting in February for Joint Finance Committee. So thank you again, Representative Minor Brown, for your work and your efforts on this and your knowledge going forward with this particular concern in our state.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Is there any questions or comments? Okay, then you can make a motion for us to go forward with this particular recommendation and have a second, please.
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with this recommendation.
And you are?
I'm sorry, this is Representative Kendra Johnson.
Representative Johnson, is there a second?
Second by Cleon Cawley.
Okay. All right, it's been moved and second, motion and second by motion by Representative Johnson and second by Mr. Cawley to go forward in support of recommendation number 2 from the Health and Welfare Subcommittee.
Okay, I will call the roll. Just wait while the attendance slide comes up. Okay, Mr. Cawley.
Yes.
Representative Bolden.
Yes.
Secretary Hubbard.
Yes.
Bishop George Gibson.
Yes.
Spencer Price.
Abstain.
Wendy Henry.
Yes.
Christine Iannelli for AG Jennings.
Abstain.
Deputy Secretary Kimberly Chandler.
Abstain.
Secretary Garvin.
Abstain.
Keith Hunt.
Yes.
Cassandra Codes Johnson.
Abstain.
Dr. Carmen Jordan Cox.
Yes.
Joe Bryant.
Sorry, abstain.
Representative Lambert. Representative Lambert.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Representative Minor Brown.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Representative Johnson.
Yes.
Representative Dorsey Walker.
Yes.
Representative Chakwocha, if you're free, I don't know. Okay, Senator Pinckney.
Yes.
Senator Lockman.
Yes.
Senator Brown.
Yes.
Okay, Madam Chair and Mr. Chair, I have 15 members voting yes and 6 abstaining. 6 abstaining. So I believe the recommendation passes.
Is there a necessity for those that are abstaining to indicate the reason for their abstention? I know normally you're abstaining and you indicate why, conflict of interest or.
I think.
Just in case anything's questioned on the minutes.
This is Sean. I think for some of us, it's because it's budget related, and we have other conflicts as it relates to the budget.
All
At
right.
least on my behalf.
So can we just indicate that budget related? Reason why you're abstaining?
I don't know that it's necessary, but if, I think it kind of was based on the same discussion I had on recommendation 2 under
Yeah.
infrastructure and environment, so.
Sure, I understand it. It's just as we get more of these abstentions, I want to make sure that there's no question in our minutes as to why people are abstaining. I know on the floor, I guess it's just the legislative part of me that on the floor, if you abstain for something, you need to give a reason why.
Representative, this,
Going forward, that's fine.
I just wanted to add, Representative, this meeting is being recorded and will be accessible on the Delaware General Assembly's YouTube channel. So any member of the public can just watch and, you know, hear the commentary as well.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is the Safety and Justice Subcommittee. I don't think Representative Chakotay.
Madam Chair.
Guys,
Madam
we have
Chair.
a lot of papers. Yes.
May I ask that DTI mute everyone because there is a lot of background noise coming through?
Yes. Thank you. For Safety and Justice, is there anyone here, or we have to wait for Representative Chakotay? Okay, can we go to the next item on the agenda? All right, we're going to go to Education Subcommittee update. We will come back to Safety and Justice. Is that Representative Moore? Who's on this?
Yes, Representative Moore and Representative Wilson Anton, although I don't see either of them on the call presently.
Okay, because I know that they're working at this time.
Representative Bowden, Representative Chakotay is back on.
Okay, all right, then let's go back to Safety and Justice. Thank you, Representative Chakotay.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Co-Chair. I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity on behalf of the Safety and Justice Subcommittee to present this update. As you know, we've been meeting. We had a lofty amount of meetings, full group meetings, as well as smaller group meetings. At our last meeting before this body, we spoke of our committee's efforts to break down our subcommittee into working groups. One working group was geared toward illegal firearms. One was geared toward mental health, one toward community response or community action plans. And then the last one was just overall dealing with justice issues. And I'm very proud of the work of our subcommittee. We've had a lofty amount of presentations in each one of the categories. And I'll just say directly that the one item we haven't addressed through our subcommittees to date is mental health. So it may not make it into our recommendations, at least not as strong as I would have liked. But the other areas, we really have moved on and worked very diligently as a subcommittee. We've, of course, looking at this past year, with there being record number of homicides and record gun violence, levels of gun violence throughout our state, we really looked at firearms in a very in-depth way and seen the challenges that a lot of our cities and communities are having. And we've had meetings we met with the police chiefs council, as well as the police chiefs from Wilmington, Chief Tracy and Chief Johnson from Dover. There were meetings with the Children's Department and the DYRS regarding juvenile justice. We met with the Attorney General's office, as well as members of the Office of Defense Services and a few other groups, and looking forward to developing those recommendations for our firearms. I believe those in every town also presented before us, and look forward to, again, recommendations about firearms and ways in which we believe that we can improve the safety and just to do what we can to prevent illegal firearms ending up in the hands of individuals within our community that shouldn't have them. Our community planning really dealt with the community's response to community violence. And we've had a few presenters in that group. We've had the Wilmington Community Advisory Commission presented to us and presented their recommendations, as well as the GVI. We've had separate meetings with the Wilmington Mayor, Mike Przicki, as well as Dover Mayor, Mayor Christensen, in regard to just the impact of violence and ways in which to respond to the violence and justice issues within our cities and states. So really looking forward to presenting those issues and taking the feedback from those meetings and presenting it into our final recommendations. And our last area is our very lofty issue, is, as you can imagine, thinking about justice. And I'm happy our meeting just past Friday, we really shifted toward the justice aspect of our work. And we had the Brennan Center for Justice present to us. And I am certain that their presentation and the work that they do will definitely assist us in our efforts to develop recommendations that improve the overall justice and for recommendations for overall justice throughout our state. Our next meeting will deal with reentry and reentry challenges and supports that are needed throughout our state. And that meeting will take place on February the 18th at 1 p.m. And as I noted, our Safety and Justice Committee has had a lot of meetings, and we're starting to pull together the information that we've gained so far, and looking forward to presenting that as a subcommittee and working to develop our recommendations very soon. And I see Representative Cook has his hand raised. You're muted.
Representative Cook.
I'm muted now.
There you go. Yes, sir.
I just want to say thank you for your assistance from your subcommittee and yourself in coming over to the Law Enforcement Accountability Task Force and lending a hand in all the recommendations that we passed and gotten through our House and our Senate. So I just want to say thank you for what you've done in my task force. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I thank you as well, Representative Cook. His subcommittee has been definitely key as we've moved forward, really working with our law enforcement and trying to understand the challenges that our cities and states are facing in terms of the illegal firearms. And as was noted in the earlier meeting, Representative Cook and I had the pleasure of going into Howard R. Young and to speak to a group of offenders who all were in prison due to gun violence and gun charges. So it was very hands-on, and I thank Representative Cook for his support of the Safety and Justice Committee as well. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, comments? Representative Chikwocha, on your subcommittees, within your subcommittees, have there been, in terms of recommendations going forward, have you looked at anything regarding the illegal firearms, gun buybacks, or any of those things going forward with the constant use of guns and shootings in our communities?
There was, I mean, an array of things, and I'm sure the gun buyback program would be mentioned. That was something that was presented in one of our presentations, and I'm certain something like that will come. And I think a lot of the challenges that were presented directly from law enforcement and just hearing the challenges that our Justice Department and other areas that they're having in terms of firearms, it's individuals really who sometimes have purchase them legally, but then illegally, they end up in the hands of individuals who shouldn't have. So I'm trying to find better ways to ensure that individuals are storing their firearms. So often individuals have a firearm inside of a vehicle. That vehicle was broken into, and now there's an illegal gun on our streets. And it's those type of problems that we're going to seek to try to address, but definitely having the opportunity to have buyback programs and to support those type of initiatives, I'm assuming will be a part of our recommendations as well, ma'am.
Thank you. Just one other comment. I noticed that in Philadelphia, you have a group of men that are going around starting to organize now neighborhoods, and they're going neighborhood to neighborhood trying to deal with the gun violence that is occurring within their neighborhoods, and to work with the police departments within them, because it's not just a police problem that we're having here. It's a neighborhood problem, and we as African Americans need to start getting involved and trying to address some of the things ourselves before. I know it was safe, but we have to do it along with them. So I'm hoping that that will come along in your discussion, because there is, with or without funding, I know there's a lot of organizations that are looking for funding in order to even organize that. We used to have a group called the Ambassadors that would be working within those neighborhoods that were troublesome. So hopefully we can look at that and find some funding to get those things done, or just people that have concerns about where we all live to make it, because it's us, and it's among us, and we need to start addressing it, because Black lives matter all the time.
Absolutely. And our meeting with the Wilmington Community Advisory Group and their recommendations really spoke to a lot of that. I know a community member who is doing a lot of that work, Mr. Daryl Chambers, he was part of that presentation and just spoke about that connection between the community really having that truly invested part and role, playing that role to decrease crime. It's not all on law enforcement. You know, I used to say all the time, community policing is two words. It's about policing and it's about community. We really work on community building and doing things that we can, or no matter what our law enforcement officers do, it's not going to have an impact. So it goes hand in hand. And I think a lot of our community planning will work toward supporting initiatives that go toward building community and building community supports to assist with the safety and justice aspects that I truly believe will assist us in implementing some of our recommendations and to support whatever legislation may come from our recommendations.
Thank you very much. So we'll go forward and vote on the presentation that was given by Representative Chakwocha for the Safety and Justice Subcommittee. I will take a motion to accept. Don't be shy.
Madam Chair, I didn't realize that we had to vote to accept the reports. I thought we were just voting on recommendations.
Well, I think he did mention recommendations within the report.
Well, Madam Chair, no, we're definitely not at the point for recommendations yet. I'm thinking our next meeting, we may have some recommendations, but we're not at that point yet. We're getting close. I think we're meeting on the 18th to look at some reentry issues and challenges. I think once we sum that up, we'll begin to review where we are. And I believe that is when our Safety and Justice Subcommittee will be ready to present to this body our actual recommendations.
Okay, but I thought you broke it down into justice issues, responses from the community, those you broke down into subcommittees within the committee. So I don't know if that was listed before.
Yes, we had mentioned that in one of our previous meetings about trying to break our work down into those bucket areas. So absolutely, we mentioned that maybe back in our spring meeting around the summer, that's when we started that smaller group meetings. But again, our recommendations, I believe maybe after our February 18th meeting, we'll begin working on honing in on our actual recommendations to present to this full body.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no further questions or comments, then we'll go to the Education Committee. Representative Moore.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am providing some updates from the Education Subcommittee. Last week, we had a phenomenal presentation from two individuals as we are now discussing ways to increase some teacher diversity within education. I was hoping that we would be able to present some recommendations coming out of our SEL work group. So by the next meeting, we will have something tangible to deliver to the work group, as it will be a resolution calling and giving attention to social emotional learning as it impacts our students every single day, just across all schools. And we also have additional meetings to circle back to some of the recommendations, because some of the work groups were a little confused on some of the recommendations they wanted to present and needed to clean up. So by the next general meeting, we will have some recommendations for the whole entire group to be voted on.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? All right, thank you, Representative Moore. Next on the agenda, is that the final reports? Recommendations to create the Racial Equality Consortium.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Representative Johnson, Caitlin, and I have had productive conversations with Director Johnson, who is the Director of Statewide Equity Initiatives, as well as DHSS, regarding the creation of a successor to the African American Task Force. And as a result of these discussions, we've arrived at an updated model for a successor entity. Instead of pursuing a state agency like the Office of Women's Advocacy and Advancement, we're proposing a racial equity consortium. And I will read off the slide. The Delaware General Assembly should pass legislation establishing a racial equity consortium for the purpose of studying and making recommendations to address the disparities and inequities faced by racial and ethnic minorities in the state. The membership of the consortium should include representatives of organizations that are currently working on issues of racial justice, or to leverage existing resources and efforts, and to promote collaboration. As part of its charge, the consortium should consider the feasibility of implementing the recommendations contained in the final report of the African American Task Force. The staffing structure, we wanted to model after the Redding Consortium, which includes staff by our higher education institutions. And we wanted to, as Delaware's only HBCU, we wanted to give DSU the opportunity to collaborate with this consortium. President Allen was approached about securing funding to staff this consortium, and DSU is on board with it.
Yes, I believe, Mr. Cawley, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you had some comments regarding that particular request going forward with Del State.
Yes, so we reviewed the information and the framework for the consortium. Delaware State is in favor of the consortium. We looked at it very similar to the layout of the Reading Consortium. Something like that, if funded, is definitely supported in a possibility. So we support it. I will say that when we get to the vote, I will abstain only because obviously I'm a representative of Delaware State University and I don't want to have any conflict, but we are definitely in support of it.
Thank you. Representative Brown, you have your hand up. I mean, Senator Brown, I'm sorry.
No problem, Representative Bolden. Miss Stephanie is what I've always called you. So capital T for terrific. My question is on this recommendation of the consortium. Maybe I'm not understanding the actual subcommittee of our African American Task Force this recommendation is coming out of. I know we've received recommendations from subcommittees already this evening. So like, what's the origin? Where's this recommendation coming from?
So our last meeting, we had come up with the recommendation to create some type of office that will oversee the existing recommendations that are going to come out of the African American Task Force, but also to assist in the collaboration of the two offices that currently exist. Office of Minority Health under the Department of Public Health, Division of Public Health, and the Statewide Equity Office. So we got some questions that made a lot of sense, which is why we went back and did our research and came back with this recommendation. And Caitlin actually has her hand up, and I'm going to go ahead and go, pass the mic to Caitlin, because I'm sure she can give you a better explanation on how we came up with this for the entire body.
Yeah, I believe the question is, what should this be coming from a subcommittee? Is that your question, Senator Brown? What subcommittee would this fall under?
Well, yeah, I guess my understanding of process is that recommendations come from subcommittees. So is this coming from a subcommittee? And if it's not coming from a subcommittee, I would assume this would be something that's coming from the chair and co-chair of the task force. So I'm trying to understand that process beyond just, you know, how necessary this is. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. It was discussed with the chair and with both chairs of the task force. I'll let Caitlin come and fill in with the regarding the discussion going forward.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So essentially, the two co-chairs, Representative Bolden and Mr. Colley, and the subcommittee chairs all got together to discuss the future of the task force. And it was decided that, you know, obviously there's still going to be a lot of work that has to be done once the task force expires, which is at the end of this current General Assembly. And so we wanted to ensure that there is a permanent entity going forward to essentially carry the torch and continue to address racial inequities in our society. And so we started with an idea to create a state agency similar to the Office of Women's Advancement and Advocacy. That's the recommendation that we shared at the last full body meeting. And then, as Representative Minor Brown explained, we received some questions and feedback. And so as a result, we had some discussions with Director Sandy Johnson, who is the Director of Statewide Equity Initiatives. We also spoke with DPH, and we decided that it would be better to create a consortium so that we can bring together existing agencies and entities that are already doing the work of racial justice and ensure that instead of duplicating efforts, they're collaborating. So that's where it came from. It's from the co-chairs and subcommittee chairs.
Senator Brown, does that answer your question?
Yes, Representative Bolden. Yes, ma'am.
Jane Hovington, you had your hand up. You still have a question?
Yes, I do. I have to apologize. First of all, I want to apologize for having missed the meetings. And I've been sitting here looking, trying to determine how. But irregardless, I have another meeting at 5:30. So I'm going to have to hop off so I can. It's my Sussex County Democrat executive meeting. So I have to jump off for that particular meeting. But I will be to the next meeting.
Stay on for this particular, we do vote on this recommendation.
Okay.
Caitlin?
Yes.
We're voting on this recommendation to create this consortium.
I mean,
are we voting? Yeah, because
yes. I mean, we you know, obviously I was waiting for somebody to make a motion or a second, or to see if there were
This is
any other
Representative Kendra Johnson. I would like to make a motion that we proceed and vote on this recommendation related to the Racial Equity Consortium. Thank you.
Second.
All right.
I'll let Dr. Cox have it.
And second by Dr. Cox.
Yes. Okay, great. I will call the roll. Let me just get the attendance slide up. Okay, Mr. Colley.
Abstaining for the reasons laid out in the discussion.
Representative Bolden.
Yes, I don't know if well, because I'm on JFC and it's gonna have to be finance. I don't know if I should be voting or should be abstaining on this.
I mean, I don't know that I can answer that for you, Representative.
Well, I'll vote yes.
Okay. Secretary Hubbard.
Yes.
I'm sorry, was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, it's a little hard to hear. Bishop George Gibson. Bishop Gibson, are you able to unmute? I do see that he's on the call, but I will circle.
I got you. I came back. I had to do something. Forgive me. My wife had just called me. I said yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Spencer Price. Oh, actually, Spencer sent me an email. He had to jump off. Wendy Henry.
Yes.
Christine Iannelli for AG Jennings.
Abstain for reasons previously stated.
Deputy Secretary Kimberly Chandler. I think she had to leave as well. Secretary John Garvin.
Yes.
Okay. Keith Hunt.
Yes.
Cassandra Coates Johnson.
Yes.
Could everybody mute? I'm getting some feedback. Jane Hovington.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Carmen Jordan Cox.
Yes.
Joe Bryant.
Yes.
Representative Moore. I think she may have left. Representative Lambert.
Yes.
Representative Minor Brown.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Representative Johnson.
Yes.
Representative Dorsey Walker.
Yes.
Representative Chakwocha.
Yes.
Senator Pinkney.
Yes.
Senator Lockman.
Yes.
Senator Brown.
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, we have 18 members voting yes and 3 members abstaining. The recommendation passes.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda. Future meeting schedule. Our next meeting will be when?
We don't have a date selected, Madam Chair. We had talked about doing it in the month of March.
Yes. Well, we'll try to schedule dates during the month of March, looking at the legislative calendar. Of course, the entire month of February. That's why we're not scheduling one, because that's the Joint Finance Committee meets the entire month of February. So we will send out recommendations for the next meeting date to see what's convenient for most of you. So next, we have a public.
We do have some members of the public. So if anybody who's on the attendees list would like to make a public comment, please use the raised hand feature. And I'll just give it a moment to see if anybody wants to speak up. Okay, I'm going to unmute Andrea Brown Clark. Andrea, you should be able to speak.
Good evening. Thank you, Caitlin, and good evening, everyone. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for recommending and confirming my participation with this committee going forward under the economic umbrella. appreciate and thank you in advance for your confidence.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to give public comment at this time? If so, please raise your hand. And if not, you can always email comments to African American Task Force at delaware.gov. And not seeing any other raised hands, I will turn it back over to Representative Bolden and Mr. Colley.
Thank you, Caitlin. And again, welcome, Ms. Clark, to that particular committee. We're glad to have you and look forward to your suggestions and working with you. If there are any comments from any members of the board, any comments or announcements that you would like to make at this particular time?
Yes, Representative Minor Brown has her hand raised.
Oh, okay. Representative Minor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to really thank not only the members of the Health and Welfare Subcommittee, but also the members of this African American Task Force, just for your support on the recommendations that were brought forward. The first, because of the most recent recommendation, because I don't want our work to just be done this year and then we just kind of move on and don't talk about it anymore, but we continue with the complaints and the concerns that we have in our communities. But also in reference to the legislation that'll be brought forth in reference to Black maternal health and infant mortality. That's a national conversation, and it really is a problem with Black women dying. It was 4 times faster than white women, but now we're at 6 times quicker than white women. So the numbers just continue to worsen. So thank you so much for your support on this legislation. And I'm looking forward to really bringing those numbers down, at least in Delaware.
Thank you so much, Representative. And thank each and every one of you for such fantastic recommendations and comments and the hard work that you're doing and putting forth in your committee. I think this has been a great Justice for All agenda, where we are definitely concentrating on the needs of the state of Delaware and the needs going forward with brown and Black people. I'm truly enthused of the work that has been put forth so far and looking forward to our annual report and for this consortium being formed. So if no one else has any questions or comments, Mr. Colley, you have any comments?
Only to echo your sentiments. I'm just the amount of recommendations that are coming through, and we're getting a lot of feedback, but the amount of recommendations that are coming through is just showing the level of work that's occurring at the subcommittee level. Let's continue the effort. Let's continue to bring the recommendations through. And if there's any of our subcommittees that need additional assistance outside of these meetings, please let us know. That's what we're here for.
Okay, I want to thank Caitlin for all the hard work and everything that she does and being so dedicated to this particular task force. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Hey. Okay. All right, move and second, adjourn. And you will hear from us regarding upcoming meetings in March. Everyone, be safe and have a good evening.
Thanks all.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.